The Board of Intertechnology meeting is convening at 9:09 a.m. on Monday, June 7th, 2021 at the Health Licensing Office in Salem, Oregon by telephone conference call. I will now call roll. Grant Smith.
Here.
Todd Young.
Here.
Chris Chapman.
Here.
And Ron Ferris.
Here.
Members, when you wish to speak, please state your name for the record. Also for the record, public members calling in to the public phone line are asked to email April Fleming at april.fleming@dhsoha.state.or.us and provide your first and last name. Public and interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. This meeting is called to order. So the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. If I could get a motion to approve, please.
So made. This is Todd Young.
And a second?
And this is Chris. I'll second that.
Okay, so Todd made a motion, Chris did a second. I will call roll, indicate with yay or nay. Grant Smith?
Yay.
Todd Young?
Yay.
Chris Chapman?
Yay.
And Ron Ferris?
Yay.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the chair. So hopefully most of you have read this, but I'm going to read it out loud just to make sure it's on the record. As many of you know, Clayton Reese passed away in a tragic accident on April 12, 21. Clayton was appointed to the board by the governor in 2019. He served as a chair on the board during 2020 and the beginning of 2021. Clayton worked as the majority of his career in public service, advocating for people with disabilities and managing statewide programs. During his lifetime, he was honored with many awards, including the Portland State University Swift Award, which was given each year in Clayton's name, and in 2006, Outstanding Special Needs Administrator for the year by the Oregon Association of Vocational Special Needs Personnel. After retirement, Clayton spent his time continuing to serve the public at the local and state level by sitting in various commissions and boards. Since Clayton was serving as the chairperson for the 2021, the board will need to appoint a new chairperson to serve the remainder of 2021. The final meeting for the year currently is held for September 27th. And at that time, you guys will then nominate a chairperson for 2022. And the chair does not have to change, but you do have to vote on it. So, for 2022. Anybody willing to volunteer, or do you guys want to talk about it, about somebody being a chair?
No, I don't have a problem. Excuse me, Ferris. It says use your last name. That's new. Anyway, Ferris. I have no problems supporting the mission.
I'm happy to serve in that capacity, and then if we want to vote once that turns up, that's fine. As long as the HLO staff continues to do all the work.
We continue to do all the work, yes.
This is Chris. I'm perfectly happy to support either of these two individuals. So that's my 2 cents.
So, Grant, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I'm with Chris. This is Grant Smith. I support either individual with my name. We can arm wrestle.
So what are we doing, Todd? Do rock, paper, scissors, or flip a coin?
If you feel strongly you want to take it, Ron, let's go for it. We can talk. We can revote in 2022.
Sure.
All right. Sounds good.
So, Todd, you want to make that a little bit more official, as in you nominate or make a motion to?
Yes, I would like to nominate Ron Ferris as chair of the Board of Denture Technology on an interim basis through 2021 until the next board vote in 2022.
Okay, and can I get a second from either Grant or Chris?
This is Grant Smith, I second.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to make Ron the board chair through the end of this year, which will be voted on again in September. I will call roll and indicate with yay or nay. Grant Smith.
Yay.
Todd Young.
Yay.
Chris Chapman.
Yay.
And Ron Ferris.
Yay.
Excellent. Okay. Motion passed. Moving right along, let's get to the director's report. So, to add to that, we have exactly quorum with you four. So, if for some reason one of you four could not participate in a meeting, we're in trouble. We have 3 vacancies. 2 are public members and 1 is a dentist. So we have both Paige and Sammy on and listening. Let's talk a little bit about how we can go about recruiting for some public members. If there's any point where either one of you four need to recuse yourself from a case or from any kind of discussion, then we can't continue with that discussion because we were right at quorum. So it causes a little bit of a delay on getting things processed if one of you can't participate in any way, shape, or form.
I got a quick question.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So I have a dentist that I work very closely with in my Salem office that has expressed an interest, but I also, from a perception standpoint and as from an ethical standpoint, I don't know if he could serve in that capacity or not. There's no employer-employee relationship. However, we do have a close business relationship. So when you say business relationship, you don't financially support each other. You just are friends and have worked real closely together. No, I would say that support. He does extractions and implants in my office. So he's an independent contractor, however. So yeah. I don't know how else to explain that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it can't hurt for him to fill out, him or her, okay, I think you said him, fill out the interest form, and that person can actually touch bases with Paige, and Paige can actually reach out to you and get contact information.
Okay. Ron Ferris. In the same deal, another denturist working there, whether it be Nels working with you or a denturist working with me, and they want to be on the board, I don't see what the issue is or the difference is. Does that make sense, Todd?
It does. We've been on the school, it could come into play more often.
Sorry about that.
Both the doctor and I to have to recuse ourselves from we've got a couple public members. So I just wanted, y'all can work it out. So,
Yeah.
but I agree, Ron.
I'm good with this. I don't see an issue, but the concern is respected. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've reached out to, we're constantly recruiting, and Sammy can talk a little bit more, and Paige is on there too. We're always recruiting, and so we're always sending out information, so, doesn't mean a dentist actually wants to spend their time, on the board. We do meetings a lot more virtual now, so it's not like they have to come to travel as much. But you obviously don't make nearly as much money sitting on the board as you do seeing clients. But so what are some ideas for public members? Anybody have any ideas?
But public members they just put in an application as everybody else. It's just what the application looks like, what kind of experience they have, and look at Clayton's experience, which was wonderful. So I think it's just getting the word out there and getting applications for it.
Yeah, Clayton was, because he liked to serve. He felt it was his duty to continue serving after retirement. Not everybody feels that way. So it's hard to try and find, somebody who's willing to. Trying to see what,
This is Sandy. Clayton was also recommended by Tad Brzezinski. So he had some knowledge about the board and how denture technology works. So there was that interest. Are there any type of associations or programs that maybe the association reaches out to help public people? I don't know. Anything like that?
yeah, Tom?
So quick question as to the qualifications and or what would maybe what would be the ideal. So they have to be an Oregon resident, correct?
Correct.
But anyone over voting age, basically, there's no other restrictions on that other than their breathing. They're a real person, right?
So it says, for one, they have to be members of Oregon, or residents of Oregon.
Okay. Okay.
They have to be, they cannot possess the professional qualifications of the other members and who are not a spouse, domestic partner, child, parent, or sibling of an active licensed denturist or dentist.
Does that include in-laws?
No.
I don't know.
Parent would be very broad.
Okay. All right.
Because that would,
And then ideally, we would want someone that had some working knowledge of denturism. I mean, if that would be the ideal. Or perhaps
they don't have to. They don't have to. The point is that they bring in their own perspective. I mean,
yeah.
not everybody has gone to a denturist, but one would assume that everybody has gone to a dentist at some point in their life. So it doesn't really matter if they know or not. It's there to bring in the public side of perspective, which is why there's been 4 denturists on the board and only 2 public members.
Okay. And will our board meetings continue to be via Zoom for the foreseeable future?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's no travel, so that helps recruitment because there's no
I've
travel.
got a couple of ideas that are former employees, receptionists that are no longer working with me. They've moved on to other jobs, or one of them is a mother now. So I'll reach out to them and see. I can also throw something on my Facebook page and see that will be a much broader net, but I'm happy to do that this week. See what happens.
Ron,
Contact email address.
Paige is listening. So Paige will reach out to you and make sure that you have her contact information. Because anybody who's interested, they can call and talk to Paige and just say, hey, what does this entail? How often do we meet? What time? What do I get? What do I have to do? Paige has all that information.
Okay.
Todd, me, Paige can put something together and send it to you.
Okay.
And then you can put that on your website.
Yeah. And Ron, what were you going to say?
That was just it. I was going to ask, is there a shortcut to us that can have that application and that description that we can share it? And so
Yeah.
we can forward it that same thing. I recognize what you read. It's just how easy it is for me to find. So
What I'll do is I'll have Paige and Sammy email all 4 of you. They'll blind copy all of you. But so you all have the same information. If you want to send it to anybody you want to send it to, great. If you want to post it anywhere, great. If you want to reply to it, then either Paige or Sammy can reach out to whomever you're wanting them to reach out to too. So.
thank you.
Sound good?
Good.
Okay. All right, so next item on I'm on the director's report, so let's talk about recruitment. The next thing I wanted to talk about is genetic counselors. So we are currently in legislative session. Sam will go into a little bit more detail about that. But genetic counselors is a new program that the office will be taking on. We currently are 16 boards and programs, so we will be up to 17 boards and programs. That goes into effect January 1 of 22. That being said, it'll be 17 boards and programs that do the shared cost of everything. So it'll start, when we get to the financials, I'll kind of talk about it a little bit more, but it will change the percentages because now it's divvied out between 17 instead of 16. Yeah, Ron?
Was that genetic or generic?
Genetic, as in your genes and what is in what they will pass on.
Versus genetic, you know, okay.
Yeah, genetic. They specialize in counseling, usually up at OHSU, your big, huge universities, science universities. They already are working. This will be more of an insurance reimbursement and more of them, once they're licensed, more insurance companies will start covering their services without having to have a referral from a physician. So those are the main reasons they're coming online. Any questions before I move on? Nope. All right. Let's look at your licensing and statistics. First slide is licenses issued and renewal process. So hopefully you guys have had a chance to review this, but I'll kind of go through the most current information at the moment. Again, our quarters are a little odd. So 2021 quarter 4 is actually April, May, and June of 21. You can see there that we have issued no new licenses so far this quarter and processed 18 renewals. Of those 18 renewals, 72.2% of them renew online. The next slide is a snapshot in time. So this is as of June 2nd when the report was ran. At that time, there was active 124 licenses. And this breaks it out by age and gender. Again, you do not have to disclose what gender you have, which is why there looks like there's 3. But you do have 3 individuals that are the age of 18 to 25, and you also have 3 individuals that are in the age of 82 to 89 that have kept their license active. Next slide shows the trend. So this is the long-term trend of licenses. Broken out by the different license types. Obviously, your the temps and the trainees, those are pretty low and stay pretty consistent, which is good because the goal is obviously those eventually to go up into the actual license type up on the top. So on average, back in 2017, there was about 105, and you're currently up to 116. Again, that's an average for the quarter, and that's just people who are active. Next slide shows your financials. I talked about this. Our years are a little weird, so our years start every July 1. So we're getting ready to close a year, and then July 1 will be a new year. This shows your financials from 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So the long-term financials, your money stays with you. It does not get transferred or anything, which is why you'll see your ending cash balances become your beginning cash balance. And then down on the bottom in the gray is the percentages for shared assessment and small board assessment. So those are the percentages that change when new boards and programs come on. That percentage will not change until July of 22. So we redo them every July. Genetic counselors is not on as of right now, so we won't redo the calculations until July of next year. But that's where I was saying that will change due to the fact that you have now have another program that's in the office. So, any questions on any of that? Alrighty. Let's move on to the regulatory report. Bob?
Hi, good morning. Bob Boswell for the record. So we're still currently looking at 3 biennium. 15-17, we have 2 cases that remain open, and I talked to the investigator this morning and last week. He was hoping to have at least one of them done, but he didn't get it. He's now my lead, so he's got other tasks as well. But as soon as he has them done, we can try to get the board together before the next board meeting to have an enforcement meeting. 1719, he also has one of those cases, and the others are getting closed out fairly quick, but we still have 3 cases remaining open, 1719 of the 20 complaints we got. 1921 biennium, we've had a total of 14 complaints, 3 of those remain open. And that's all I've got. Any questions, concerns?
Okay, this is Sylvia again. Let's move on to policy report. Sandy?
Yes, so the first item is the legislative summary report. So 2359, those are small on the screen. Provides for to work with healthcare interpreters from a registry operated by the health authority, which we'll see how that turns out. 2970 defines devices in the Board of Cosmetology's rules, and then intertwines the Advanced Aesthetics program and how those devices will be defined by the 2 different license types. And that one is pretty much done. It's just going to the Senate floor. 2619 is the genetic counseling that Sylvie mentioned earlier, which is really the only bill that affects you guys directly. And then Senate Bill 64 clarifies the timeline for the application of statutes for health licensing, handling complaints and investigations. And then Senate Bill 358 changes authorization to practice for behavior analysts and interventionists from registration to licensure. So that's all that we have for legislation. Oh no, it's 820. Removes the exception from regulation for certain persons licensed under Sex Offense Treatment Board. Any questions about that?
I was curious, I think it was 2619, you said that's the only, this is Ron Ferris, the only one, that's the only one that affects us directly. What do you mean by that? I'm trying to read it.
Oh, because it basically takes the percentage, like what Sylvie said earlier about the fiscal report, you'll pay less of a percentage to be in the health licensing office because it'll be divvied up by 17 boards rather than 16.
Oh, so, okay, it was a fiscal and monetary thing, not a practice thing. Thank you.
No problem. And then the next item is just a report, the Office of Equity and Inclusion, who write the cultural competency continuing education rules for the state of Oregon, and certain licensed healthcare professionals, including denturists, have filed rules which closed for public comment on June 1. We are waiting for final language, which hopefully will be by the end of the month because the law goes into place on July 1. So, and it's basically what it's done is it's taken the 4 main practices and made those the types of skills that are required for continuing education, and then a committee will determine more specifically what those look like. Ann Thompson, who is the other analyst, and I, one or the other of us, will get on that committee to help determine. The goal is to have any education that wants to be approved to go through Office of Equity and Inclusion and use their script telling how things get approved. So that's the goal. We'll be communicating with you guys a lot once we get more information, so you won't be left in the dark, I promise. We will keep working, Todd, at HLM. That's it.
Does anybody have any questions on the cultural competency stuff?
This is Grant. I have a question of a little C here. We talked about the rulemaking coming up, and how does the rulemaking timeline affect our deadline for implementing this with the, in our, I mean, we're kind of talking about doing it at a meeting, and I don't know if we've established that, but how does the timeline for the rulemaking affect the implementation or the requirement that we need to, each license holder needs to meet?
So just to clarify, the rulemaking is Office of Equity and Inclusion, not us. So all licensees who renew after July 1 are required to have cultural competency as part of their continuing education one hour every 2 years. That will go into effect starting in 24 days. So it goes into effect regardless of this rulemaking schedule, because that's what's in the law. In your 1 hour. Go ahead.
Well, I was just, so we're sort of building the plane as we're flying it. I don't know, how do we know what we're required to, what standards we're required to meet?
That is exactly our issue. So we knew this was coming years ago. We got it in our rule a long time ago. And there's currently classes, so we have a link on our website. So there's currently classes that are out there that are already approved for cultural competency.
Okay.
The way that the law is written, though, is that it either has to be a class that is approved by them or a class that would meet their approval. In order to know what meets their approval, they need to put that in rule, and they have not yet to do that. So yes, we understand we're working in circles here, which is why we were trying really hard to get either Sammy or Ann or both of them to be on that rules advisory committee so that it's very clear. Our office is used to writing rules that licensees have to abide by on a regular basis. That's what we do. I wouldn't say we're experts, but we're pretty darn close. Office of Equity and Inclusion is not. That is not something that they normally do. So they're running a little bit slower and a little bit not quite understanding how it needs to be like clear in rule so that other offices like us can articulate that, and that's not what's occurring. So we are very aware of what you just said.
Sure. I think since that's sort of the lay of the land, my concern now is, we've got this sort of narrow pathway through which we can garner this because there are only a couple of approved courses. What's the licensee's timeline to meet this? That's a refresher on that.
So you have to have 1 hour every other time you renew. So it goes into effect in what I say 24 days, 25 days, 24, whatever. You have 2 years to take
You've got
this out.
an hour. Perfect. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yes. All right, anything else on the cultural competency before we move on?
Yeah. All right, Val.
All right, so let's move on to the next thing on the agenda, which is COVID-19 status update. So, even though for those of you, I'm sure all of you listen to the news and know what's going on with the governor. However, those new guidelines and the getting back to normal stuff does not necessarily relate the same to private sector as it does to state government. So her goal is to have us open September 1. Even if the state as a whole opens up prior to, like I think her last press conference, she was talking about roughly July or June 21st through around there to July. They're expecting that 70% of adults in Oregon will be vaccinated, at least with their first shot, and that's where she would like to be able to open things back up once the state gets to that. That does not mean state government opens up then. state government will not open up until September 1. So come September 1 is when our offices will then be back open. Right now, we are open by appointment and appointment only. Nobody is allowed to just walk in the door. That will not change until September. And not that many of your guys' licensees have to quote walk in the door, but a lot of licensees do, and so just kind of keeping you guys up to date on that. Currently, if somebody wants to apply for a license, they have to apply through the mail. They're not allowed to walk in. So sometimes when we were open, your temps or your trainees, they would want to walk in so that they would immediately get their license. Well, that can't occur and hasn't occurred for quite some time now and will not be able to occur until after September 1. So any questions on that?
Well, if you're open September 1, September 27th meeting will still be this venue.
Yes, so we will still conduct all of our board meetings like this. It'll get to the point where if you are local and you want to come into the office, that'll be a choice. But one of the things that the state's going to is to try to prevent the travel. So if you are not from the Salem area, we will highly encourage you to do it this way so that we're not having to reimburse you for travel, because that's obviously an expense. And then they're trying to limit that travel, limit the expenses, and do it this way because it's still live, it's still recorded, you can still participate, we can still share our screens to view documents. So that's their goal, is to try and continue keeping it this way. See, and we can watch Todd walk around outside in the sunshine, because it's not sunny here. I don't know where he's at.
I might be in Hyundai, Oregon. Sorry for that.
It's all right. But yes, Ron, so the goal is to continue doing this Teams meetings.
Okay, so that's the two factors. The COVID is one issue, but what's usual and customary is going to still be this way. So they're separate.
Yes. Another thing that state government is going towards is encouraging people to continue working from home unless they need to come into the office. Right now, I'm at home, Sam's at home, Paige is at home. I think Callie's in the office, Bob's in the office. So it was kind of like a howsy. And okay. So the goal is to continue keeping it this way.
Good. That works.
All right. Anything else related to COVID? Any questions? All right. Bob, can you find out if there is any public members on the phone?
Hi, this is Bob with the Health Licensing Office. Are there any public members on the phone? Big negative.
Nobody on the phone. All right, then we will move on to other board business. Does anybody have any other board business?
I do. This is Bob. For the board members, since Sean Murray has left Oregon, she was our subject matter expert. I need a subject matter expert for this board to help us with investigations. So if you have any ideas, have them reach out to me. And
don't say any names on this. This is recorded. This is public meeting.
Right.
So, but Bob needs a subject matter expert. If you have anybody in mind or know of anybody, reach out to Bob privately and not talk about here. They need to be licensed in Oregon, active in Oregon, and no outstanding or unresolved disciplinary action.
Okay.
And at least 5 years experience.
Are former board members excluded from that?
Just you.
Nope. It cannot be current board members.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Anybody else have anything?
I was waiting for the new business slide. Is that the same
Bob, I
thing?
can get a recruitment letter out to all licensees
Thank
too.
you.
I can do that. Sorry, Ron.
So Ron, we're on the very last one, the other board business. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up?
Well, there again, to bring up something about maybe getting on future agenda, new business, maybe work on a committee to search for something, that's where I wanted to input. I didn't know if that was the time to do it. Now?
Sure. Just search for what?
Okay, well, I don't have any other existing board business to discuss. Talking about maybe looking into some board business for the next meeting. I'm trying to find that avenue. Maybe I'll give you an example. Sure, I think you're what I'm saying. What I'm looking at is alternative education and learning for, I get a lot of requests for people that, well, how do you get into the program? How do you get into the program? And so I'm trying to find out, when I send them your address and send them that direction, I would like to find out what that is, what they're getting. So, for example, people are going to get the education, say they don't choose the camp venue of the school for whatever reason, but they need to get oral pathology, they need to get anatomy, and so they go to a school like PCC, which doesn't have a lab program anymore, they closed it. So I'm curious what's out there for alternative education. Do people have a choice? I'm not saying it's working, I'm just not educated in it to be able to know what's out there now. So as a board member, I'd like to be informed on if somebody needs to get oral pathology, do they have to go to a PCC term course, pay that, get that to fill their application, or can they get it from another source? I just don't know if there's options out there. I'm confused, so I sound confusing.
Yes. So I would recommend that you reach out. That's not considered board business. So what is board business is what qualifies. So yes, you have to have all the classes, you have to have the hours, they have to be broken out, you have to have a lab, you have to have a test. Where you get them is, you could have gotten them in, Florida. We're just going to need those transcripts, and we're going to need verification that those classes meet the qualifications.
Okay.
So there's no list that says you have to go to Portland State, or you have to go to Todd School, or you have to go to OSU or U of O. It just says that you have to have these hours, and they have to cover these subjects, regardless of where you went. You could have even done some of it in the military.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what schools have what programs and what classes, I wouldn't consider that board business. That would be more of an association, and I don't know if you guys have one. So the board is not here to promote the profession. That would be more of an association thing, and that would be more where association would say, hey, by the way, if you want to get into this, here's a great school, Portland does this, so-and-so does that. That's more of an association thing, so we really need to keep those two things separate. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. And I think in the meetings, when Todd and I meet again, we haven't said hi to each other, shook hands in a while, but our communication is always finishes wonderfully. But with that said, somebody that went to Concord and Concordia, I get those mixed up, but one of them's an entry level where the education might get them a job, but the transcripts aren't transferable to go to PCC to get their anatomy and their oral pathology, so they have to take it again. I'm thinking if the education pathology, say the instructor is the same as the instructor at Concord, why wouldn't that transcript be acceptable for licensure?
Well, I can speak for a quick second to that, Ron, because just because the instructor is the same doesn't mean the curriculum or the course content or the number of hours, direct contact hours, or even competencies that they're required to teach are the same. So it's some of the questions that it sounds like you're asking are actually education or Department of Education questions, as opposed to the Board of or the health licensing office. And I'm happy to talk to you offline about where to get some answers on that.
Yeah, and that's great, because I get, whether they're patients or people, they're going, cool, how do you get doing this? How do you get to do it? And I'm going, well, there's a big window, this way and this way. And I just kind of want to make sure that it's this way or this way, and I just want to be up to speed and get the right direction. And thanks, Todd. It's an education question, not a board question. Okay.
Grant or Chris, do you guys, either one of you two have something?
This is Chris. I was wondering if it would be possible to, when we renew our licenses online or by mail, if you could give the dentures the option of a duplicate license right on the website or right on that printed page to make it easier for dentures that need that duplicate. I run into this every year where generally my receptionist will renew for me, and then after I've got the license in hand, I'm going, gosh, I didn't get that duplicate, so I have to go back in and recontact the office to get the duplicate. Is there any way we could make that easier?
Interesting, very interesting. So a couple things. One is, as of right now, we use NIC, which not that you need to know all this, but I'm giving you way too much information. So we currently use the online store through the state, which is called NIC USA. They're the online store, and no, there is no way of getting around other than renewing blah, blah, blah. That being said, we're working with our vendor who maintains our database to upgrade to the newest version. Once that newer version gets implemented, then we will get away from the NIC store, which also charges you that $2 transaction fee. We will get away from that, and then we will be able to do the duplicates via online versus having to snail mail it in at the moment. So it's coming.
Okay.
Yes. It's just
not a problem. Okay,
yes,
that'd be cool. That just makes it a little bit easier for down the road.
Oh, 100%, yeah. We're trying really hard to get our software just needs to be updated, and we've got over 75,000 licensees now, so it's not a quick process. I mean, if we only had like 100 and some, like your guys, just your board, it would be so much easier. But we have over 75,000 different individuals because of all the different boards and programs, so it's going to run a little bit slower.
We will be patient, so thank you for what you're doing.
No problem.
That's all I have.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Chris. Grant, did you have anything?
I don't, thank you.
Okay. Todd and Ron, did you have anything else you want to talk about? No?
Good to see everyone. Sorry I was late. Apologize.
No, you're fine. Ron, did you have anything else?
No, Todd and I had a great experience on your time, so thank you, Todd.
All right. So then the Board of Denture Technology meeting is adjourned at 9:53.